Hello and welcome to Oil for the Journey. My name is Ileana and I will be your journey reader for today. Here at Oil for the Journey, we follow the Ignite the Truth reading plan by Bridges for Peace. Today, I will be reading to you from the book of 2nd Chronicles 25, 26, 27, and 28. Before we begin, I always like to share with you a little bit of my digging. I like to dig whenever I come to, I think I should have been an archaeologist. But just before these chapters, and I'm going to encourage you if you haven't already, just before these chapters in 2nd Chronicles 25, you have a whole rich story. Remember old King Ahab and Jezebel? Well, they had a daughter, and they married that daughter. Her name was Athaliah, and Athaliah got married to one of the kings in Jerusalem, in Judah. Remember, at this point in time, Israel was, Ahab was king in Israel, which was in the northern tribes, and then there was other kings of the lineage of David in the in Judea. But Athaliah was married off, and she just brought wickedness, just the same wickedness that to which she was born. And so when we read today about Amaziah in chapter 25, we need to remember that Amaziah was Athaliah was his great-grandmother. She had a similar death. She killed everybody because she wanted to keep the Judean throne to herself. But her grandson was, after her son was killed, she even killed her son. Okay, she then forgot, and they didn't kill. Actually, Joash, the son, who is Amaziah's father. Joash was Amaziah's father, but he was hidden. He was hidden by an aunt of his. So read that, because I think it's very important as we see these kings go up and down in goodness and badness, or worse yet, half-heartedness. So without further ado, I will read to you. Join me. Chapter 25 of 2nd Chronicles. Amaziah was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jehoaddan of Jerusalem, and he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, yet not with his whole heart. As soon as the royal power was firmly his, he killed his servants who had struck down the king, his father. But he did not put their children to death, according to what is written in the law in the book of Moses, where the Lord commanded, "Fathers shall not die because of their children, nor children die because of their fathers, but each one shall die for his own sin." And let me just make clear, Amaziah reigns in Judah. Okay. Amaziah's victories. When Amaziah assembled the men in Judah and set them by fathers' houses under commanders of thousands and hundreds for all Judah and Benjamin, he mustered those 20 years old and upward, and found that there were 300,000 choice men fit for war, able to handle a spear and a shield. He also hired 100,000 mighty men of valor from Israel for 100 talents of silver. But a man of God came to him and said, "O king, do not let the army of Israel go with you, for the Lord is not with Israel." Again, remembering that he was reigning in Judah, and even though his great-grandmother was from Israel, a daughter of Ahab and Jezebel. So this wise man is telling him, don't be bringing in the the warriors of Israel to come down to Judah and help. And he says, O king, do not let the army of Israel go with you, for the Lord is not with Israel, with all these Ephraimites. But go, act, be strong for battle. Why should you suppose that God will cast you down before your enemy? For God has power to help or to cast down. And Amaziah said to the man of God, But what shall we do about the 100 talents that I have given to the army of Israel? The man of God answered, The Lord is able to give you much more than that. Then Amaziah discharged the army that had come to him from Ephraim to go home again. And they became very angry with Judah and returned home in fierce anger. But Amaziah took courage and led out his people and went to the valley of Salt and struck down 10,000 men of Seir, and the men of Judah captured another 10,000 alive and took them to the top of the rock and threw them down from the top of the rock, and they were all dashed to pieces. But the men of the army whom Amaziah had sent back, not letting them go with him into battle, raided the cities of Judah from Samaria to Beth Horon and struck down 3,000 people in them and took much soil. Amaziah's idolatry. After Amaziah came from striking down the Edomites, he brought the gods of the men of Seir and set them up as gods and worshipped them, making offerings to them. Therefore the Lord was angry with Amaziah and sent to him a prophet who said to him, Why have you sought the gods of a people who did not deliver their own people from your hand? But as he was speaking, the king said to him, Have we made you royal counselor? Stop. Why should you be struck down? So the prophet stopped, but said, I know that God has determined to destroy you because you have done this and have not listened to my counsel. Then Amaziah, king of Judah, took counsel and sent to Joash, the son of Jehoaz, the son of Jehu, king of Israel, saying, Come, let us look one another in the face. And Joash, the king of Israel, sent word to Amaziah, the king of Judah, a thistle on Lebanon sent to a cedar on Lebanon, saying, Give your daughter to my son for a wife. And a wild beast of Lebanon passed by and trampled down the thistle. It's important, I think, to just kind of stop and read that. First of all, remember Joash was Amaziah's father, but they were using the, interchanging names. There's several Joashes, so it can be confusing. But listen to what it says, that give a daughter to my son for a wife. And, you can trace that back to when these two, yes, they're all the Hebrew nation, yes. But at that point in time, there was a lot of disobedience, and God was with Judah, and Israel's kings were just, one bad king after another. But the Judean kings also were kind of, one good, one bad, one good, one bad. So, but keep that in mind. We're to be following our God, not these kings. Okay, so verse 19 says, You say, See, I have struck down Edom, and your heart has filled you up with boastfulness. But now, stay at home. Why should you provoke trouble so that you would fall, you and Judah with you? This is what the kings of Israel said. Joash said to him. But Amaziah would not listen, for it was of God, in order that he might give them into the hand of their enemies, because they had sought the gods of Edom. So Joash, king of Israel, went up, and he and Amaziah, king of Judah, faced one another in battle at Beth Shemesh, which belongs to Judah. And Judah was defeated by Israel, and every man fled to his home. And Joash, king of Israel, captured Amaziah, king of Judah, the son of Joash, son of Azahiah, at Beth Shemesh, and brought him to Jerusalem, and broke down the walls of Jerusalem for 400 cubits from the Ephraim gate to the corner gate. And he seized all the gold and silver and all the vessels that were found in the house of God, in the care of Obed-Edom. He seized also the treasuries of the king's house, also hostages he took, and returned to Samaria. Amaziah, the son of Joash, king of Judah, lived 15 years after the death of Joash, the son of Jehoahaz, king of Israel. Now the rest of the deeds of Amaziah, from the first to the last, are not written in the book of Kings. Now the rest of the deeds of Amaziah, from the first to the last, are they not written in the book of the kings in Judea and Israel? From the time when he turned away from the Lord, they made a conspiracy against him in Israel, and he fled to Lachish. But they sent after him to Lachish, and put him to death there. And they brought him upon horses, and he was buried with his fathers in the city of David. And the people of Judah took Uzziah, good King Uzziah, who was 16 years old, and made him king instead of his father Amaziah. He built Eloth, and he restored it to Judah, after the king slept with his fathers. Uzziah was 16 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 52 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jechaliah of Jerusalem, and he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, according to all that his father Amaziah had done. He set himself to seek God in the days of Zechariah, who instructed him in the fear of God, and as long as he sought the Lord, God made him prosper. He went out and made war against the Philistines, and broke through the wall of Gath, and the wall of Jabneh, and the wall of Ashdod. And he built cities in the territory of Ashdod and elsewhere among the Philistines. God helped him against the Philistines and against the Arabians who lived in Gurbaal, and against the Meunites. And Ammonites paid tribute to Uzziah, and his fame spread even to the border of Egypt, for he became very strong. Moreover, Uzziah built towers in Jerusalem at the corner gate, and at the valley gate, and at the angel gate, and fortified them. And he built towers in the wilderness, and cut out many cisterns, for he had large herds, both in Shephelah and in the plain. And he had farmers and vine dressers in the hills and in the fertile lands, for he loved the soil. Moreover, Uzziah had an army of soldiers fit for war, in divisions according to the numbers of the muster made by the Jeiel, the secretary of Masaiah, the officer under which Hananiah, one of the kings, under the direction of Hananiah, one of the king's commanders. So he was very organized, very detailed in everything, and he just increased. The whole number of the heads of fathers' houses of mighty men of valor was 2,600. Under their command was an army of 307,500, who could make war with mighty power, to help the king against the enemy. And Uzziah prepared for all the army shields, spears, helmets, coats of mail, bows, and stones for slinging. In Jerusalem he made machines invented by skillful men, to be on the towers and the corners, to shoot arrows and great stones. His fame spread far, for he was marvelously helped, till he was strong. But when he was strong, he grew proud, to his destruction. For he was unfaithful to the Lord his God, and entered into the temple of the Lord to burn incense on the altar of incense. But Azariah the priest went in after him with 80 priests of the Lord, who were men of valor. And they withstood King Uzziah and said to him, "This is not for you. It is not for you, Uzziah, to burn incense to the Lord, but for the priests and the sons of Aaron who are consecrated to burn the incense." So they're trying to save his life because I guess he kind of got a little bit too big for his britches and thought, I can also do the priest's job as well. So it's not for you, Uzziah, to burn incense to the Lord, but for the priests, the sons of Aaron, who are consecrated to burn incense. Go out of the sanctuary, for you have done wrong, and it will bring you no honor from the Lord. Then Uzziah was angry. Now he had a censer in his hand to burn incense, and when he became angry with the priests, leprosy broke out on his forehead and in the presence of the priests and the house of the Lord by the altar of incense. And Azariah, the chief priest, and all the priests looked at him, and behold, he was leprous in his forehead. And they rushed him out quickly, and he himself hurried to go out because the Lord had struck him. And King Uzziah was a leper to the day of his death, and being a leper lived in a separate house, for he was excluded from the house of the Lord. And Jotham, his son, was over the king's household, governing the people of the land. Now the rest of the acts of Uzziah, from first to last, Isaiah the prophet of the son of Amoz wrote. Uzziah slept with his fathers, and they buried him with his fathers in the burial field that belonged to the kings, for they said, "He is a leper." And Jotham, his son, reigned in his place. Jotham was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jerusha, the daughter of Zadok, and he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, according to all that his father Uzziah had done, except he did not enter the temple of the Lord. But the people still followed corrupt practices. He built up the upper gate of the house of the Lord and did much building on the wall of Ophel. Moreover, he built cities in the hill of Judah and forts in the towers in the wooded hills. He fought with the king of the Ammonites and prevailed against them. And the Ammonites gave him that year 100 talents of silver and 10,000 kor of wheat and 10,000 of barley. The Ammonites paid him the same amount in the second and third year. So Jotham became mighty because he ordered his ways before his God. He was ordered and had a lot of control of what he was doing. He put his things in order. Now the rest of the acts of Jotham and all his wars and his ways, behold, they are written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. He was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. Jotham slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the city of David, and Ahaz his son reigned in his place. Ahaz was 20 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. And he did not do what was right in the eyes of the Lord, as his father David had done. Now you see here, son of David. David is the first king, and David is the main king, right? And it's his throne that would be established. Now, Ahaz was the son actually of Jotham, but they call him here. It said he did not do what was right in the eyes of the Lord, as his father David had done, which would have been maybe his great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. But he walked in the ways of the kings of Israel. He followed the other clan, the other part of the family. He even made metal images for Baal. And he made offerings in the valley of the son of Hinnom, and buried his sons as an offering, and burned his sons as an offering, according to the abominations of the nations whom the Lord drove out before the people of Israel. And he sacrificed and made offerings on the high places, on the hills, and under every green tree. Therefore the Lord his God gave him into the hand of the king of Syria, who defeated him and took captive a great number of his people and brought them to Damascus. He was also given into the hand of the king of Israel, who struck him with great force. For Pekah, the son of Remaliah, killed 120,000 from Judah in one day, all of them men of valor, because they had forsaken the Lord, the God of their fathers. And Zikri, a mighty man of Ephraim, killed Maaseiah, the king's son, and Azrikam, the commander of the palace, and Elkanah, the next in authority to the king. The men of Israel took captive 200,000 of their relatives, women, sons, and daughters. They also took much spoil from them and brought the spoil to Samaria. But a prophet of the Lord was there, whose name was Oded, and he went out to meet the army that came to Samaria, and said to them, Behold, because the Lord, the God of your fathers, was angry with Judah, he gave them into the hand. But you have killed them in a rage that has reached up to heaven. Now you intend to subjugate the people of Judah and Jerusalem, male and female, as your slaves? Have you not sins of your own against the Lord your God? Now hear me and send back the captives from your relatives whom you have taken, for the fierce wrath of the Lord is upon you. So it was God's choosing to take them and put them into the hands of their cousins, the Israel in the northern tribes. But they went too far. They wanted to just, they're like, oh, we won. But it was God who had done it. So God sends word through this prophet and says, give them back. Okay? Wow. Kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it, in this day and age? Wow. But I like that. Now hear me and send back the captives from your relatives whom you have taken, for the fierce wrath of the Lord is upon you. Wow. Verse 12. Certain chiefs also of the men of Ephraim, Azariah the son of Johanan, Berechiah, and the son of Meshillemoth, Jehizkiah, and the son of Shallum, and Amasa, and the son of Hadalai. I'm just so happy that the Lord knows these names, because I know I'm not doing a very good job with them. But anyways, continue to read with me. And he said to them, You shall not bring the captives in here, for you purpose to bring upon us guilt against the Lord, in addition to our present sins and guilt. For our guilt is already great, and there is a fierce wrath against Israel. So the armed men left the captives and the spoils before the princes and all the assemblies. And the men who had been mentioned by name rose and took captives, and with the spoil they clothed all who were naked among them. They clothed them, they gave them sandals, provided them with food, drink, anointed them, and carrying all the feeble among them on donkeys, they brought them to the king's folk in Jericho, which is just outside of Jerusalem, the city of palm trees, and then they returned to Samaria. Wow, that's pretty powerful. That's a pretty powerful paragraph. They didn't want God's wrath to be upon them as well. So they cleaned up the captives and sent them back. That's some powerful stuff there. Wow. Verse 16. At the time King Ahaz sent to the king of Assyria for help, for the Edomites had again invaded and defeated Judah and carried away captives. And the Philistines made raids on the cities of Shephelah and the Negeb of Judah, which is, I think, south of Jerusalem, and had taken Beth Shemesh, Aijalon, Jederoth, Sokol with its villages, Timnah with its villages, Gimzo with its villages. Again, I like encouraging people to just take a look on the map and get your bearings about where all these places were and where they are today. Very interesting. And they settled there, for the Lord humbled Judah because of King Ahaz, king of Israel, for he had made Judah act sinfully and had been very unfaithful to the Lord. So Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, came against him and afflicted him instead of strengthening him. For Ahaz took a portion from the house of the Lord and the house of the king and of the princes, and gave tribute to the king of Assyria, but it did not help him. Ahaz's idolatry. In the time of distress, he became yet more faithless to the Lord. This same King Ahaz, for he had sacrificed to the gods of Damascus, had defeated him, and said, because the gods of Syria helped them, I will sacrifice to them that they may help me. But they were the ruin of him and all of Israel. And Ahaz gathered together the vessels of the house of God and cut in pieces the vessels of the house of God. And he shut up the doors of the house of the Lord. And he made himself altars in every corner of Jerusalem. In every city of Judah he made high places to make offerings to other gods, provoking to anger the Lord, the God of his fathers. Now, the rest of the acts and all of his ways, from the first to the last, behold, they are written in the book of Kings and of Judah and of Israel. And Ahaz slept with his fathers. They buried him in the city in Jerusalem, for they did not bring him into the tombs of the kings of Israel. And Hezekiah, good King Hezekiah, his son, reigned in his place. Well, that's all. Of course, I love these chapters particularly. I often go through them, and my own Bible is all marked up because I just think that it's rich in wisdom and in understanding of when God tells us to do something, it's wholeheartedly. It's not half-heartedly. And we can certainly criticize back then, but we need to make good application. I think that's what I believe. Good application of these stories. I'm trying to remember what the psalm is, but it says, purify my heart that I might not sin against thee. And that's what is a constant reminder for me when I read these chapters. So I leave you for now, and I will see you soon. And God bless you richly, my brothers and sisters.